Hi to all my subscribers. So this might be the first time I actually showing my face in front of a live video and a camera because I normally don't do that. I don't like showing my face. My voice is okay. Okay, so hi. For introduction's sake, my name is Siobhan. I'm the founder and also the creator of the YouTube channel Simply Me Studios.
And I'm Ian. I just started my YouTube channel. It's called Born to Vlog. Yeah, so yeah.
So anyway, this is a 3-part video collaboration series between the both of us. Also, we are doing this 3-part video series mainly to highlight and sort of raise awareness about the videography trade and also the video editing trade. Mainly what is the media trade all about and the ins and outs that goes into it. Because there's a lot of misconceptions and even I would say OY sales lah, okay, but actually it's more the misconceptions that goes into it. We also be like answering a lot of questions that most people have about the video trade. Okay, so both Ian and myself, we are actually in the media industry, though I kind of specialize more in video editing.
And then for me, it's also filming and video editing. And also, it started off because of my passion for music and audio recording.
Yes, so unlike me, he actually is much better in filming, I'm better in video editing. Welcome to the first episode of the Videopreneur Series. It's a working title, by the way. I need to find a better title. Alright, so let's get started. How do you get started in videography? You wanna take that?
Okay, for me, when I first started in videography, actually it was an accident. Yeah, because I play the guitar, right? I just wanted to make my music recording sound nice. So I decided to apply to a few audio studios. So I just emailed a few audio studios and being very thick-skinned, that I wanted them to take me in and give me an internship. I messaged this one studio, took me in and said, okay, we're gonna start you off with how to put sound effects to cartoon characters. At the point in time, they were doing animations for kids shows. So my job was just to put the footsteps into the cartoon characters. Then because the studio was not paying me a lot, it's 150 a month, it's worse than my NS allowance.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I decided that after 2 or 3 months there, I just the pay couldn't sustain me. So I decided to move on from there. So I started to film my surroundings, like for example the roads, the cars, or maybe the birds, the cats, everything in my neighborhood. So it's kind of like redubbing the sounds using whatever I can find on the internet. So that's how I somehow accidentally stumbled into video, because I just wanted to go and film stuff around just to put sound back into the videos that I filmed.
Okay, for me, it's actually kind of a very strange story. I got exposed to video at very young age, probably I would say primary school age, maybe primary 5, primary 6. I have a cousin that was working in media corp at the time. So he invited me down to the sets when they were filming. I happened to meet Andy Sale at the same time. He was actually one of the main actors of the what's the name now? Going Home?
Oh, wait. Growing Up.
Growing Up. Yes, Growing Up. It was a really popular show back during when we were kind of kids. I'm not even sure whether anyone even knows of the show today. It's a very loose growing up family shows, very drama, which is back then is kind of the trend for shows in Singapore at that time. So yeah, that was actually what sparked my interest in it. But because I am not the very academically inclined, so I tend to go the long way around for my education. I was an EMP student, I was a normal tech student. Actually, I trained as a photographer under a mutual photographer friend of ours that I was an assistant. So she taught me the ins and outs of framing, all that, and that is actually what got me interested in photography beginning with. It's only after when I went to LaSalle, which is my university, when I started really getting an interest in all this videography, and so I kind of majored in film. That is how I got into it to begin with. How did you actually develop your passion in videography?
Okay, so for me, how I developed my passion in videography, after a while, it started to dawn on me that, hey, my own clips is not really very amateurish at that time. So the more I experimented with making my clips look cinematic, the more hooked I got on it. So that's how my passion in videography slowly started from there.
Okay. For me, I actually kind of started out late. Okay, I'll be frank, I'm not a very big fan of actually using a camera to film, even now. But when I first started working after graduation from LaSalle, I joined a production company right out of school. Actually, to be precise, they actually headhunted me. So after that is then I found out that they don't just hire for one role. When they ask for video editor, they also want a videographer, they also want a sound designer, they also want a sound mixer. So basically, it's 4 包到了 4 in 1 role. So of course, it's after that, because I was the only videographer in the company at that time. So I was literally kind of forced to get good at videography. If not, the boss will be coming down hard on me like a bag of rocks. But obviously when you're forced to do something you don't like, you really don't like. But it's only after I started my own YouTube channel when I started, get interest in it. Because when you are doing something out of because you want it and because it's a passion, you prefer it rather than you're forced to do it because it's a job. I mean seriously lah, if someone asks you to do something you don't like, would you really enjoy it?
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that.
Yeah, so this is how I started my passion. It's ironically it's after I graduated and I started my first job at production house lah, instead of you. You started before you work.
Oh yeah, mine was a hobby. Yeah, then after it, I turned it into a job.
Yeah. How did you eventually decide to try taking up videography as a full-time job?
Actually, it was very strange because I was just recording my own stuff, and then I wasn't really formally trained in any media school. But somehow, being the thick-skinned person that I am, I thought, okay, let's give this a shot. For me, I just started filming weddings because there's a guy that I met. I saw that he was using the same video mic as I was using. I have a magician friend who asked me to help him film his event, and he also happened to invite this guy over to help him film his event. So when I saw this guy, he has more sophisticated equipment than I do, so I decided to follow him and then learn from him how to shoot weddings for a few good weddings in a row.
Okay, in my case, unlike Yen, I actually had an official education, formal education in videography and even video editing. So I was about 22, 23 when I got into the cell as a student. I'm at least kind of couple of years older than most of the students there at that time. After graduation, like I mentioned earlier in the second question, I actually took up a job at a production house lah. So that is actually honestly how I got started lah. Even before that, I actually was trained as a photographer assistant before I actually got into videography. So this is how I got into my full-time job as a videographer and / editor. How do we actually get the necessary training to succeed in this trade?
So unlike her, she went through media school, formal training. So I think they probably teach you a lot of stuff.
Yeah, because I was in the cell lah. So because it's an arts college, it's a private institution. Right now it's a semi-government. But back when I actually enrolled in the cell, it was a private art institution. So you can imagine the school fees lah, okay? So because I have completely no art background, so I actually spent 1 extra year in the cell, then compared to most of my classmates. The foundation year is the basics of the foundation for everything, arts, drawing, etc. etc. This is just for Singapore. I'm not sure about overseas, okay? For Singapore, as long as you got an O-level cert or even let's say a polytechnic cert or even ITE, it's enough for you to get into any institution that actually offers formal training in this media. But privately, honestly speaking, if you really want to succeed in this trade as in camera work editing, I wouldn't actually recommend you go into the institution or school, even though it's a bit hypothetical of me to say because I actually went into a formal education. Because personally, I feel that you learn more if you actually train under someone as a job or internship. This is speaking from my point of view. Probably others might have this different kind of mindsets lah. But when I went through my internship for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, I actually learned more in these months compared to an entire year of formal education in school.
Yeah, and for me, just like she said, it's better to train under somebody. I actually went through wedding videography, food and events.
Yeah, we both we kind of trained under the same wedding videographer for a while lah. I think by the end of it, I was really honestly sick of doing weddings.
Yeah, because weddings is an 11-hour process. You wake up 5 a.m. and then you end the whole shoot at around 11
and
p.m.
if you are lucky, we might end at 10, 11 p.m. If you're unlucky, it's maybe midnight. And not only that, you still got to pack up, you still got to do the end work with the couple, and that is if they even got the energy to even talk to you.
So there's a lot. So I remember shooting weddings for 3 weekends in a row in 1 month, and that's when I decided maybe I should just take a break for a while. Then,
actually, for videography, most of the time in Singapore, it is normally for weddings. You can charge high, it's true. But honestly speaking, for myself as someone that does weddings before for over a year, it is not good for your stress levels.
It's actually quite stressed if you're the main person doing what we call the SDE or the same day edit.
We actually coupled up together with another friend of ours to do wedding videography for a year before. All three of us, we were all wearing a lot of different hats. He was the one that lights the clients, he was the shooter. For me, occasionally I'm the one that did the bride, I also the shooter, I'm also the editor. The third friend of ours is Lucky. He's just a photographer and shooter.
Oh yeah, so for the choreographers, actually they're having a better time because they just take the photos.
But sometimes if you're lucky, okay, you can get those nice couples. They are very happy with your work, etc., etc. But because it is a wedding, it's only once in your life. So obviously there are a lot of couples that can be a bit inner about what actually goes on at wedding. We actually did a couple before. I don't know whether you still remember that. There was a couple years ago. There's this bride, you know, I can't remember their name, but anyway, I'm not going to mention their names here. I don't want to get sued. Yeah, so anyway, there's this bride. Originally, we met with this couple about over a week or so before the actual wedding. We went through what is going to happen, who is going to shoot who. Ian here, he is more skilled like me at videography. So because the bride is the main star of the day, normally our concept is to he go for the bride, I shoot the groom. So we told the bride and groom this. They said, okay, sure, go ahead. On the day of the wedding, suddenly they got a change of mind. The bride don't want to let him into the room. We ended up having the switch position. I went down to the bride, he go to the room. Unfortunately for us, that day, bride live in Tampines, the groom live in where the groom live in Bukit Batok, right?
Yeah, somewhere further.
East and west So by the time we reached there, obviously I kind of missed out most of the stuff already like the bride is preparing, putting on dress all there, and because I was also the editor, so the stress level is more on me than on him. So this is just one of the stress stories that we have about weddings, but not that say that wedding doesn't pay well, it does, and you will have no lack of jobs I would say, because almost every month someone is getting married.
Yeah. Oh, almost every month. Wow, that was back then.
Yeah, but now with COVID it's kind of different. A lot of weddings, if there are any, they hardly ever invited physically, even if they ever do, because now mostly it's live stream weddings.
Yeah.
Which is actually another set of challenges. What are the ups and downs that you've experienced as a video editor or even a videographer on the job?
The ups is you get to go to a lot of places for free, and then because back then my job was in a music school, so I get to film a lot of popular musicians from overseas. They will come down and give live performance concerts. I get to film them up close. So that's the good thing.
Okay, for me, ups and downs. Okay, I started out mostly as a video editor I mean, videography is actually kind of a secondary role in most production houses that I do. But this is just for those aspiring newbies to this trade. Okay, don't expect to be good right off the bat. None of us did. We learn as we train. I was lucky because when I started out those jobs, the bosses that hired me understood that I was fresh grad. I'm very green behind the ears, so they are totally willing to let me learn as I work or at least my second boss does, which I will go more into detail about it later. Actually, my second boss, he taught me most of what I know about video editing and even videography. A lot of practical skills I know today is due to him. I learned on the job. That is normally how I learn. So the ups and downs. Downs is mainly like maybe you got this vision of how you want your video to look like, how you want it to go, how you want it to flow. But the reality is not so simple. How you imagine it might not always be how it turns out, because you are limited by what you can achieve. I can tell you right now, when I first started out, I spent at least half of my work hours YouTubing how to achieve this effect and that effect.
Oh yeah. So thanks to YouTube, we actually are able to learn everything online these days.
I mean, back during our student days, YouTube at that time don't have so many of these. Nowadays, you all can learn right from the comfort of your home. You don't even need to go for formal education. And even if you want to, there is always something called Udemy.
Oh yeah, Udemy. So for me, the downs in doing videography is sometimes they over expect you to do a certain thing. Like say for me, at one point in time, I was expected to produce a video every day. Then I was thinking, how am I gonna do that? Because if you're working for a company, then you only have 2 or 3 or 4 events a month to film. If you don't have events, then what kind of videos can you do?
Sometimes it also might be those software issue, hardware issue.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, like back a couple of years back, let's say about 8 to 10 years ago, that then Adobe software wasn't so good yet. Back then I remember we got a whole lot of crashes often, to the point that I stopped using Adobe programs.
Oh yeah, back then was very buggy.
Yeah, especially After Effects. Let's say you do, let's say for me, for example, let's say a 30 seconds video in After Effects, right? Guess how long that export time take?
I think by then not enough RAM, right? So about maybe almost.
It was 8 hours.
Wow, 8 hours for how long?
30 seconds.
Wow, 30 seconds and 8 hours of rendering. Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not even touching on Premiere Pro yet. It's like the more effects you dump in, the more layers you do, the more things you put in, the longer your rendering time and exporting time. And the thing with Adobe programs is you have to render before you actually export. If not, you have a lot of problems. I learned that the hard way once. I export one video without rendering. The video come out export. I waited for freaking 5 hours. Halfway through the video, I got one blank spot. No picture at all. No visuals.
Oh dear.
That is the one part of the reason why I hated using Adobe programs.
Yeah, but I think these days with better technology,
Yes.
you can have faster rendering time.
Yeah, but it also has its own issues. Mainly is the subscription. I do know quite a lot of people that still prefer using Adobe, but there are some of us that really doesn't like Adobe. We use alternatives like DaVinci, which is actually getting better these days. Back during our time, it wasn't so good yet. It was mainly known more as a color correction program, but these days it's equally good as a video editing platform, and Filmora as well is quite a good one as well. But for me personally, I prefer using Final Cut Pro X, which is actually the program my second boss uses, and he actually taught me to use the program, because prior to that I was actually also an Adobe user. What actually goes on for every small change in an edit? Back when I was freelancing, I kind of made a mistake of not including a contract. What kind of changes is allowed without extra charges? What kind of changes is included and I didn't charge? Now, one thing but I always charge people is I always put in the contract. I also highlighted it verbally to my clients, but that is the music approved, okay, but if you want to change the music, I will charge the extra $150. I got this client once and jumped at it and said, why so expensive? And I'll tell you why now. Because every single time they want to change the music, I have to redo the entire edit all over again, because how video editors edit, especially if it's let's say event or even a music video especially, we edit according to the beat. So let's say if you change the music, yes, I have to redo the edit all over again. That is why we tend to charge a lot more if you want us to change the music. And rendering, like we said before, this especially for Adobe programs, is very time consuming. Especially if you are dumping a lot of plugins, effects, transitions, layers, whatnot into your edits. For Final Cut, which I use mainly, it's not so bad as compared to Adobe, but even still, rendering does take up some time. And why we render is because you are literally telling your program that, oh, I want to export this entire length of the video. I don't want any hiccups. The rendering is to make sure that everything is run smoothly and you actually get what you see in your timeline, and not like suddenly halfway through the video you get one big blank screen, or even the audio skip. Because even the audio that you put in your editing program also does get rendered.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's the same as what she mentioned. So every small change actually results in one render. So it depends on how good your computer is. I would liken it to making like a quick lapis. Like, you know, there's a lot of layers. It's like eating a cake brick. You know, it's like how you build a house. There's different layers of bricks. Yeah, so if one layer is not good, you need to rebake the entire cake all over again.
Yeah, otherwise you'll collapse.
Oh, I need to make a small change in one part. So it's like that part of the cake is not good. You need to kind of just add in again, and then you need to rebake the whole thing. So the whole rendering process, it will just depends on how long your entire video is.
And honestly, it also depends on your computer. Older computers, I would say, take more time than, let's say, newer computers. These days, the hardware and the RAM, all these of computers, especially for the Macs, iMacs, MacBook, whatever not, is actually much better compared to years ago. Let's say 8 to 10 years back, which is when we first started doing our video business. These days, it's much faster. You don't need to spend so much time. You literally tear your hair out as you wait for the bloody thing to render or to export. But back then, I can tell you, I lost count of number of times I want to just smash my computer to the ground.
Yeah, so if you're wondering what we're talking about when we're talking about like small changes, yeah, what we're referring to as small changes, it can be anything from the smallest detail. Like if you want me to remove a full stop from your subtitles, or change one alphabet from caps to small,
or even you want to change a certain scene from let's say just one scene, maybe let's say less than 1 second or even 3 seconds. Yes, once we change it, everything will have to re-render again.
Yeah, so no matter how small the change, it can be as small as a grain of sand. It's just will result in one more rendering.
Are there any ridiculous or over the top expectations when it comes to editing? Okay, where do I begin? I did freelance even from my time as a student, so I have a lot of horror stories about it. This was one of the first freelance jobs I got fresh out of school actually. That was before I actually started my official working. That time I was finishing my project. It was an actual film. It was about 2 hours long if I'm not wrong. It's a kind of romance story. I was recruited in as an editor and also their kind of their PM, their production manager. So the producer at that time doesn't really have much of background in the media, and for some reason that I have no idea why, there was this really romantic scene between the two main leads that is supposed to take place at the park under the tree. They were confessing their love confession. It's supposed to be a very beautiful scene in broad daylight with the clouds, nice lighting, everything. But I think they ran out of time that time. They decided of all things to do, to film it at night. And then, you know what the producer tell me? Can you please change the sky to daytime?
Wow, how are you gonna do that? Dark sky
it's not impossible. I can do rotoscope. The problem is the scene is not static. It is on a bloody slider. So I was staring at the producer for a full 3 minutes without saying anything before I told him, sir, you got two choices here. Number 1, you go and reshoot this entire scene. Or number 2, you go and add in an additional scene in front of this scene so that it doesn't look weird. Because I told him that regardless of what you say, I am not changing a freaking sky because it's going to take me another additional 3 months of work.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that is really quite a lot of back-end VFX, visual effects work.
Ironically, it's not just those that with no media background. I find that even those in the media background, they also kind of fall on the same track. Anything goes wrong with filming, especially during like short films, feature films, whatever films. Okay, let's say for example, hey, we don't have a plan. Hey, oh no, we need to put a window there. Oh no, I want this kind of background behind this window. They'll say use my personal favorite. The answer, oh, we can just fix it in post. I had lost count of number of times I heard this bloody answer.
So it's always nice to find someone to work with who understands your workflow and don't want you to have additional work. Yeah. Because
speaking as an editor, I definitely do not appreciate you giving me more work. Because green screen, yes, these days is already very simple, fast and straightforward. But the problem is, especially if you're hanging a literal green screen on the set, sometimes the creases on this cloth or what, it will not be smooth. You will still have to do a lot of editing, cleaning up. If you are going to replace that green screen with, let's say for example, a sky background for example. I did it a lot of times. Unless it's a very smooth, very nice color, don't have to do changes much. If not, even all these green screening or that, a lot of edits. Also, speaking of green screen, this is also, especially if you're doing an interview video, let's say, for example, please tell your interviewee don't wear any green shirt.
Otherwise you will blend the whole background.
Yeah, because I remember a couple of years ago, there was this newscaster on an American program, I believe. They were actually wearing a green shirt, and then there was a lot of memes floating about the net after that. They superimpose all kinds of things on the shirt.
Yeah. And also, the only thing you see is a ghostly head and then 2 floating arms.
That does happen because wherever that happens, we had to reshoot the whole thing So so this is editing can be equally parts frustrating and also can be quite entertaining. So this is my suggestion to you, especially to you producers and directors. Don't give your editors more work; they will not appreciate it.
Yeah. Anyway, they are also human beings. They are not machines for you to tell them do this to do that.
And unlike what you think, editing needs a lot of brain power.
A lot of imagination and creative juice.
Yes. Is videography or video editing even a proper job? Okay, so my first question to you guys on watching now is, what even is a proper job? I've seen people actually mock buskers on the street, say it's not a proper job, you're not getting your hands dirty. Oh really?
Okay.
That is also a proper job. I mean, in my opinion, you're working, you're earning money, you're acting out a honest living is a proper job. But yes, even back during our time as students, and even after I've graduated, there's a lot of people that still thinks that video, photography, etc. Blah is not a proper job. It's just a hobby. It took me 1 week to convince my mother to let me go to LaSalle, because at that time she also had the same mindset. Said, you want to go in the film? Can you even find a job after that? Later you'll go hungry, you'll starve. That's what my mother thinks. It took me and my brother combined together to convince her, and even so it took us a week. But these days, yeah, more and more people, you know, more videos, more all this is in demand, especially with COVID. A lot of advertisements, all that. So I would say that yes, it is a proper job. It is not for hobby only. Thank you very much.
So 10 years ago, things were different from the way they were now. So back then, it was just like all these things is like for fun only.
But these days, there's a lot of jobs available now that you will not think is possible 10 years ago. You know, like even these days, you just becoming a gamer also can become a proper job.
Wow.
As difficult as you say, there is a company in Singapore that does that. Obviously, okay, those jobs are mainly to, you know, to compete in competitions and that. And even now coding also is a proper job. It's very much in demand some more. Coding and live streaming, all this can be considered proper job. I mean, honestly, it's not just including videography, photographers, video editing, all that. You are making out a honest living. You are taking in money for what you do. It is a proper job. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. What was it like working on a film set? Why is so many people involved in the creation of a film? This is speaking from my days as a student, and even after that, I did work on a few films before, even some of Singapore's local films. I'm not going to tell you which one, I don't want to get sued. So the thing is, what you see on the screen, let's say for example, let's say the movie Spider-Man, for example, you see, wow, so nice, Spider-Man flying across the screen like that. Or you know, but you know, there is more to the goes in it than just the director and producer and actor. Let's say, yeah, the script writer, they are the ones that write the script. You have the props guy, you got the wardrobe, the designer, they design the sets. Like how you see Spider-Man fly from one place to the other, right? Most of the time, that is not what is supposedly seen during the filming. You know, it's green screen. Like Final Destination also, like you see how the touch wood, like that, right? Then when the car collapses, the bridge collapses or whatever, that is green screen. Yes, basically the visual effects.
Visual effects of how they meet their end.
Yes, and then and some more that is the sound recordings. And about thing on the sound, there's a whole entire department going to it. Even for student films, there will always at least be a minimum to 3 or 4 of us. One person to hold the boom pole, one person to monitor the sound, and the 4th person maybe to record the sound. Total 4 of us, at least. Because unlike how it looks like, boom pole can be very heavy, especially if you do it for long hours. I was a sound recordist once, and of an 8-hour shoot, my shoulders are hurting now. These days, probably you'll see a lot of people, you know, wearing a lot of hats. Like one person 全部包到了吧, but I can tell you that is only going to affect the quality of your video. If one person is not possible to do everything yourself, you need help, especially when it comes to video. That's the same thing for feature films as well. You need all kinds of people to help you. That is also the reason why there are so many people involved in the creation of film. Like every time you watch the movie, you watch that, you see the end credits, right? Like at least 5 minutes, the credits rolling.
I think these days a lot of people are cutting costs. Like,
I mean, when I first started freelancing, I did one-man show a lot. I'm the person liaising the client. I'm the one putting in the sales. I am the one shooting. I'm the one editing also, and I'm also the one doing the closing. So
and also the social media.
Yes, and advertising all that. So I can tell you, you will only burn yourself out.
So you gotta give yourself that rest that you need.
So we come to the end of the first episode of the Videopreneur Series. Like I said, working title. We definitely need to come up with a better title.
So actually I started this off is because I wanted to do like a documentary about like interviewing different videographers or editors about what do they truly feel, like, you know, all the ups and downs.
We want a WhatsApp group, WhatsApp group for those videographers, photographers. A lot of people have those kind of questions, but unfortunately not many of us will be reading this film.
So I think maybe the title for this thing can be like inside the world of video editors, or through the camera, or behind the cameras.
Or through the lens. Funny, through the camera is the title of a documentary I watched before.
So maybe behind the camera or inside the world of videographers.
But we really seem to have quite a lot to say about our bloggers compared to when we first came up with this idea. So I mean, video editing, there's a lot more to what we actually said, which actually I'll go more into it in the next episode. And like he said, also there's more to videography than you just take a camera and run around with it. So if you enjoyed this video, do stay tuned to our next episode, and also do like and subscribe.